Hello and welcome to the...
You're so
What?
You're not even in frame.
I'm almost. To the... What is it called?
Cheating!
What is it called?
The elbow, wrist, hand,
The elbow,
ultimate.
wrist, hand, ultimate review. Thank you. Yeah, let's begin.
Okay, medial epicondyle.
So you're blocking the light with this paper. Just saying. The medial epicondyle of the the medial epicondyle of the humor is going to be here on the medial side. It's going to be where all of the wrist flexors and pronators attach, as well as the UCL and the Palmaris Longus. And we're also going to have injuries such as thrower's elbow and golfer's elbow. And here we're going to have the ulnar nerve and the little notch under it. And also, there's one more point. Yes, the Volkmann's contracture can occur if we fracture the epicondyle.
Lateral epicondyle.
A lateral epicondyle is going to be on the lateral side. You guys can't really see it, but I'm palpating it. Well, you're on the Brachioradialis right here.
That doesn't even...
well, I guess...
That doesn't even feel bad.
Yeah? It's going to be on the lateral side. It's going to be an attachment point for the RCL, or the Radial Collateral Ligament, as well as all of the wrist extensors and supinators. And so we're going to have tennis elbow occur here from all of the wrist extension. And finally, we're going to have the Volkmann's contracture if we get a fracture, or the possibility of Volkmann's contracture if we get a fracture to the epicondyle. I believe
Compare it to the medial epicondyle.
I said it's less prominent. Come on, man. We can watch it in the video later. Come on, man.
You say things too fast.
Gotta
I don't know
keep
these.
up. I'm kidding.
And you say them not in order.
Yeah, I definitely don't say them in order.
Olecranon process.
My brain is a whirl. Olecranon process is going to be right here. It's pretty much our elbow. We're going to have the olecranon bursitis occur here. It's going to be an attachment point for our triceps, and also it's going to be if we palpate the olecranon process and we palpate the medial epicondyle in between of those two, that's actually where the ulnar nerve runs. You can palpate it here, and yeah.
Fits into where?
Oh, sorry, olecranon process fits into the trochlear of the humerus.
Radial head?
The radial head, it's going to be the proximal most point of the radius from the thumb side right here. It's going to fit into the capitulum of the humerus, and it's going to have a cup-shaped head, allowing to fit into that capitulum, allowing for the pronation and supination.
Okay, coronoid process?
The coronoid process is going to, it's part of the ulna, and it's gonna fit nicely into the coronoid, is coronoid, yes, into the coronoid fossa, and that is where we're gonna have our, it's gonna be an attachment point for...
Where is the coronoid fossa?
Oh, sorry, yes, the coronoid fossa. Coronoid fossa is going to be on the humerus. I'm blanking on the attachment point. The attachment point of the... Oh yeah, no, it's not the attachment point. We're going to have... it's going to create a thing for radial notch on the ulna for radius to fit into, or the radial head.
How is it damaged?
It's damaged most oftenly when our elbow dislocates.
Trochlear notch?
The trochlear notch is going to be on the ulna. It's going to fit into the trochlear of the humerus. It's going to allow for elbow flexion and extension, and it's going to prevent the ulna from rotating, unlike the radius.
Okay. What divides?
Oh yes, and we're gonna have a bony process that divides the actual process from the radial notch.
What's it called also?
Oh yes, the semilunar notch. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the semilunar notch.
Okay. Tuberosity of radius.
Tuberosity of radius is going to be not too far. It's going to be a little bit more distally from the radio-ulnar joint at the top. It's going to be right here in the radius. It's going to be an attachment point for the biceps brachii.
Okay.
Yeah.
Radial notch.
The radial notch, it's going to be on the ulna right here, and it's going to be a place where radius comes together with the ulna, and where some of the rotation of the radius happens.
It attaches to.
And attaches to the annular ligament, which holds down the radius and
Olecranon bursa.
The olecranon bursa is going to be on the bottom here, where olecranon is. It will provide cushioning for the triceps, and it can be, if we have a blunt force to the olecranon bursa, it can cause the olecranon bursitis.
Okay. Radius?
The radius can be right here, the thumb side. This is our radius, and the distal fracture radius can also be called Colt's fracture, or as it's also known, the silver fork fracture.
Okay. Ulna?
The ulna is the bone right next to it on the pinky side.
Brachioradialis.
The brachioradialis is something known as the jack of all trades of the elbow. It's gonna originate on the distal 2/3 of the humerus, and it's gonna go down. You squish just a little bit forward, yeah. No, not too much. They just, yeah. And it's gonna go all the way down and attach at the lateral distal styloid of the radius, and it's gonna be responsible for elbow flexion as well as supination and pronation. It's going to assist the biceps brachii with flexion, and it's going to be doing more supination than it does pronation.
Okay. Pronator Teres.
The Pronator Teres is going to be, it's going to start out on the, let's see here, on the medial epicondyle, and it's going to, the medial epicondyle and the olecranon process.
No.
And no?
No.
Just the medial epicondyle.
A different process.
Oh, sorry, not the olecranon. The medial epicondyle and the coronoid process.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go mix them up, top and bottom, and it's gonna go all the way down to the middle of the lateral radial side and attach there, and it's gonna be responsible, as the name implies, for the pronation.
Okay. Triceps.
The triceps are going to be on the back here. I can palpate them, and they're going to attach at, I guess there's nothing there. But yeah. The supinator is going to be, going to originate on the radial side, and it's going to attach at the proximal lateral side of the radius, and it's going to be responsible for supination.
A radial side of what?
Radial side of radius.
Okay.
Lateral side of radius, not radial.
Okay.
Lateral side of radius, yes. Proximal lateral side of radius.
Okay. Ulnar collateral ligament.
The ulnar collateral ligament is going to be on the ulnar side. So on the inside, it's going to start at the medial epicondyle and go all the way down to the olecranon process of the ulna. And it is going to...
It's not the olecranon process.
The olecranon, sorry, the coronoid process of the ulna, and it's gonna resist valgus forces, so forces coming from the outside.
Okay, radial collateral ligament.
Radial collateral ligament is gonna start on the lateral and radial are really similar. Lateral epicondyle and go down and touch at the radius, and the RCL is gonna resist the varus forces coming from the inside.
Okay. Annular ligament.
The annular ligament is going to hold down the radius and ulnar together. Right here at the proximal end, it's going to start at the RCL and go through the joint capsule and attach at the radial notch, it's gonna keep the radius and ulnar together and prevent them from separating, basically.
What does it resist?
It resists torsion forces, yes.
Radial styloid?
The radial styloid is going to be here more distally on the radius, on the lateral side. It's going to be, if you could, thank you. So it's going to be right here, radial styloid. It's going to be at the apex attachment point for the RCL of the wrist, and RCL of the wrist, and also at the base is going to be attachment point for the Brachioradialis, as I mentioned, and we're going to have the extensor Polycast Longus, extensor Polycast Brevis, and the Abductor Polycast Longus, and it's going to be in between those two. It's going to separate those two. It's going to be right in between of the little hack how to find it.
Okay, Ulnar Head.
The ulnar head is going to be right here. It's the distal end of ulnar, the ulnar head,
styloid.
And the ulnar styloid. It's going to be this bump over here. It's going to be the attachment point for the UCL, or the ulnar collateral ligament of the wrist, and it's going to connect with the triangular fiber cartilage right above it.
Distal radial ulnar joint.
Distal radial ulnar joint. It's going to be right here. We have one at the proximal and distal end. This one at the distal will just allow for pronation, supination.
Radiocarpal joint.
Radiocarpal joint at the very, not the joint, sorry. Radiocarpal joint is going to be a little bit forward of it, and it's going to be responsible for the wrist flexion and extension, as well as ulnar this way deviation and radial this way deviation.
Okay. Extensor retinaculum.
The extensor retinaculum is going to hold the tendons together, and it is going to be on our ventral or side, extensor ventral.
Okay, flexor retinaculum.
And the flexor retinaculum is going to be, again, holding down the tendons, except it's going to be on the flexor palmar side.
Not palmar.
Not palmar, dorsal.
Mm-hmm. Extensor carpi radialis.
Extensor carpi radialis is going to be, let's see here, extensor, so that would be I'm going to have your hand like this. It's going to be on the RCL, or the radial, it's going to be at the attachment point, it's going to be at the lateral epicondyle, and it's going to be responsible for wrist extension.
Extensor carpi ulnaris.
And the extensor carpi ulnaris, again, will have its origin on the lateral epicondyle, and will be responsible for, again, wrist extension.
Okay, extensor pollicus longus.
The extensor pollicus longus will be responsible for the thumb extension, and will be, so it's really easy to see it when the person's extending their thumb, the tendon right here. It's going to be on the ulnar side of the one second. I'm blanking on the word, but I'll get it. The anatomical snuff box. There you go.
Flexor carpi ulnaris.
The flexor carpi ulnaris will be originate on the medial epicondyle, and will be responsible for wrist flexion.
Flexor carpi radialis.
And the flexor carpi radialis will also originate on the medial epicondyle, and will also be responsible for wrist flexion.
Okay, abductor pollicus brevis.
The abductor pollicus Brevis will be on, again, if you can, abduct and extend your thumb. It will be right here, right below the extensor, the abductor pollicis brevis. We can palpate it here. It's going to be on the radial side of the anatomical snuff box.
Okay, anatomical snuff box.
And the anatomical snuff box itself, from the radial side, again, it's going to be the extensor pollicis brevis, as well as abductor pollicis longus. And on the ulnar side, it's going to be extensor pollicis longus, or this very prominent tendon right here. And within the so these are going to be the tendons that are responsible that are going to be in the decour vein syndrome, and also we can palpate within the anatomical snuff box, and if there's going to be pain or tenderness, we can indicate if the scaphoid is fractured or not.
Okay, Palmaris Longus.
The Palmaris Longus is going to be this muscle and tendon in our forearm, which we don't really use. It's going to be mainly used in the Tommy John procedure to replace the UCL, or the ulnar collateral ligament.
Flexor digitorum superficialis.
Flexor digitorum superficialis. It's going to be on, again, the palmar side here. It's going to be responsible for flexing digits 2 through 4 together. Yeah.
2 through what?
2 through 5, sorry.
Yeah.
You have 5 digits.
Hmm?
You have 5 digits.
2 through 4? I mean, you could just do that.
Yes, but all together, yes.
Okay, Pronator Quadratus.
The Pronator Quadratus will go from radius. It's going to be more on the distal side of the radius and ulnar. It's going to go from radius to ulnar. It's going to be responsible for pronation. What else is there? Right, it's going to be right below the distal radio-ulnar joint.
Cubital fossa.
The cubital fossa is just going to be the elbow armpit.
Elbow pit.
It's the elbow armpit. Looks just like the actual, yeah. And you
8 carpal bones.
The 8 carpal bones. So the acronym here, we have some lovers try positions that they can't handle, starting with scaphoid. Some scaphoid. Scaphoid is going to be injured the most, or fractured the most oftenly out of the carpal bones. It's not going to be noticed on x-rays 80% of the time. It's avascular, so there's no blood to it, so when it's actually flat fractured, it won't heal on its own. We have some lovers lunate. Lunate is going to be the bone that's dislocated the most often. Then try position, so triquetrum and pisiform. Pisiform is going to be the sesamoid bone, so the floating bone, and then that they can't handle. We're going to have trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and finally hamate. Hamate, we're going to have a little protrusion, a little hook on top of it called tunnel of Guyon. Under it's going to be the ulnar nerve, and because there's a little hook on it, it's really easy to fracture it. So that's going to be this part of the little protrusion, the little hook of hamate. It's going to be what's going to be the most injured when a person's holding an object and hits it against something and there's blunt force. So which can compress the ulnar nerve and cause bishop's hand, where the 4th and 5th digits will be contracted and all the other ones will be splayed.
Carpal tunnel.
The carpal tunnel, it's going to be bound down by the transverse ligament and the flexor retiniculum, and we're going to have the median nerve going down the carpal tunnel, and so when the flexor digitorum longus gets inflamed or irritated, that's when the actual median nerve gets pinched and we have carpal tunnel syndrome.
Thenar eminence.
Thenar eminence is going to be on the thumb side, and it's going to be the muscles on the thumb side here. We're going to have extensor, or the abductor, I think it's extensor pollicis brevis, abductor pollicis brevis. Abductor Polycast Brevis, Flexor Polycast Brevis, and Opponens Brevis. Not Opponens Brevis, Opponens Polycast Opponens. That's the thenar.
Hypothenar eminence.
And the hypothenar is going to be right next to it. That's the area under the fourth and fifth phalanges. So we have muscles here, and we're going to have abductor digiti minimi. We're going to have flexor digiti minimi brevis, and we're going to have opponens digiti minimi. And we're going to have hypothenar eminence hammer syndrome, which is when you have repeated trauma to the hypothenar eminence, which causes these muscles to swell up and cut off circulation. So this area becomes avascular, and we're going to have pale fourth and fifth digits.
Okay, ulnar nerve.
The ulnar nerve is going to go down in the cubital pit. It can be subluxed. Ulnar nerve is what people know as the funny bone when they hit their elbow. So the ulnar nerve will go down, and it's going to be responsible for the front and back of the fourth and fifth digits. And when it's injured, we went over it or compressed, it will result in bishop's hand. So when you flex your fourth and fifths, and the other ones are splayed, that is the ulnar nerve.
No, what does it run through?
It runs through I forgot about the little tunnel of Guion up here in the hamate area.
Okay, radial nerve.
The radial nerve will run on the radial side of the arm. It will be responsible for the digits 1, 2, and 3, or the backs of those digits, as well as the fingertips of those digits. It will be partly responsible for the claw hand, as well as the drop wrist.
Median nerve.
And then the median nerve runs through the carpal tunnel. That's the one that gets compressed and results in carpal tunnel syndrome. And the median nerve will also be responsible for the digits 1, 2, and 3, but the sides of those. And the median nerve is partly responsible for the claw hand and is responsible for the ape hand.
Done.